Alright, we are back with the third part of ranking the best and worst of every weapon class with the brand new Drizzle season. It's been 1 year into the game, and with the balance in such a great spot, it's time to go over which competitively are in the best spot. As for usual, subscribe if you enjoy, and let's get right back into it. Up next is the blasters, and I'm not gonna waste any time. I've been waiting to say this for a long time. The best blaster in the game is the range blaster. This is one of those weapons that hasn't really been buffed directly, but has been indirectly getting better in so many patches. Tacticooler is obviously the big one for it. Cooler has been huge for blasters to give them chances to fight without any form of jump RNG, as well as Special Saver for its special output. And you know, fighting and QR metas are kind of Blaster's thing back in Splatoon 1, so it's good to be back to it. On top of that, some of the meta specials are really good for range to deal with. Crab was already one it was solid against, but it struggled to actually break it, just more force people to get out of it, so that was just an okay matchup. Jetpack and Trizuka, on the other hand, though, are not only amazing to fight, as they're one of the best options to take them out with their wider hitbox, but on top of that, combos exceptionally well with its damage. Especially Trizuka, where opponents can even heal a little bit and still die to a range blaster shot. Range currently benefits the most compared to the others for a few factors. One, it has arguably the best kit, only really comparable to the Rapid Deco, which has lower inkjet output. And while Rapid Deco is solid, I'd argue it struggles with being rushed down a bit much in this kind of fast-paced meta, and Range's ability to deal higher damage and get one-shots off is a little bit more important. The long-distance area of effect Range has also puts it above S-Blast in my opinion, especially given the weaker kit S-Blast provides. While that weapon has more threatening directs in an open environment, Range Blaster has much larger indirects, and that's proven to be more valuable against all these long-distance specials. And when it comes to competing with Vanilla Blaster, I think Range's longer range is more valuable. Not only does this give it a better kit with something like Wavebreaker that it's nice to combo with and works very well with Trizuka, but it also works a lot better against more of the mid to long range options we've been seeing developing in this meta. Yeah, Squeezer's still a hard matchup for it, but stuff like Nautilus and Ballpoint and Snipe Rider are all things it likes to fight or even pair with. I get that blasters aren't the highest bar right now. I mean, it's hard to argue any of them as the top tier, but if I was gonna pick one that has the chance of getting there, it'd be Range. Brushes I'm less enthusiastic to talk about. Octobrush and Paintbrush are obviously the weaker main weapons. Octobrush has some damage inconsistencies, and Paintbrush is really slow at everything it does. We seriously underestimated how much that wind-up hurts. Everything you want to do is slower because of it. However, while Octobrush is a weaker main weapon, its kits are much better, especially after the recent Zipcaster buff, while Inkbrush is stuck with Ultra Stamp and Whale, which are some of the worst, with Stamp having issues that I've talked about already, and Whale just being rather underwhelming in general, not really having that strong and effective as a displacement special. While Octobrush's vanilla kit is solid, it's actually the Nuva one that's been seeing a bit more results, as the Inkstorm makes it a lot more well-rounded, is solid for boosting its damage, and is a great entry tool at 180p being fairly cheap. It's gotten some results in the Western scene, including over a top European team twice, and while beacons definitely aren't helping its entry, it's still something that Brush can set up rather well. This weapon and kit, while not amazing by any means, has been a surprise pick for the best of the brushes. Up next is one of the Splatoon 2 classes, the Dualies. While before now Tetras were the staple, faster weapons have kind of struggled since Cooler has helped other things keep up with it. And on top of that, the Special Saver Cooler provides isn't as helpful for Tetras with its weak kits. I mean, you're either going to deal with Reef Slider or Sprinkler. Because of that, the Dualies we've seen the most have actually been the custom Dualie Squelchers and vanilla Splat Dualies. It's pretty hard to pick between these. Custom Dualie Squelchers do benefit from Cooler a bit more than the others, have a solid beacon niche, and in zones-only tournaments, the weapon has seen a fair bit of use. However, the vanilla Dualies in an all-modes environment are definitely the way more flexible of the two. This also benefits from Cooler more, since being able to save your crab tanks while being over-aggressive is very important for this weapon. And while it struggles with matchups a bit worse than Dualie Squelchers, it doesn't suffer from the same, well, pea-shooter damage problem. Dualies still have some really tricky matchups, and it's kind of the main thing holding it back, keeping them really difficult. But they have still gotten prominent results over the last few months, and I think that they just barely are better than the custom Dualie Squelchers right now. And next up with the Brellas, we have a very interesting contest. I don't know what the Sorella brand has been given the freedom to do, but wow, this should be the brand designing kits for like every weapon. Both Sorella and Tenebrella have some of the best kits they could have ever gotten. Sorella 10 has a mine it can very easily set up with the 10 shield and combo with, and on top of that has Trizuka, one of the best specials in the game, which also has the additional utility of being able to use your Zuka behind a 10 shield. Regular Brella, on the other hand, not to be outdone, has the cheapest bomb it could get, helping a lot with its ink efficiency problems and a 190p inkjet. Not only a strong special in its own right, but one it can use to extend any form of kill streak or position it gets, as well as being able to shield your own recall. Realistically, these kits, including their synergy with the main weapon, are about dead even, so it comes down more to which main weapon I think is better, and in this case, 10 still has the edge. Brella has gotten a buff, to be fair, with its shield regenerating faster, which is more helpful than you might think in terms of getting you back into the action when you aren't dying from fights. It allows you to shield, tank some damage, and if it gets broken, you're not spending 6.5 entire seconds waiting for it to come back, but only 5.5. That's a substantial difference. However, the main weapon still does have some problems. Specials can absolutely melt the shield and leave the weapon stranded, and the damage is still really inconsistently bad. While it's seen some use in tournaments so far, and a lot of notable Brella players are giving it a shot again, 10 already has really good results even before the recent patch. And on top of that, that main weapon is much more solid. Its damage isn't perfect, but it's definitely a lot better, and the shield has much more unique utility, with comps being built around it that enable it a bit more, such as being paired with Squeezer or 96 for even more tanking capabilities. 10 is just a little bit stronger of a main weapon, with a bit more interesting comps at the moment. Next up are the bows, and hey, 1 year into the game's life, I get to cover not just 2, but 3 of them. Low standards aside, since the launch of the game, both bows have gotten some substantial buffs and player development. However, I think that with the right kit, the Tri-Stringer would definitely come on top right now as a main weapon. This is stacked with so many strengths. I mean, this thing has a long range, a one-shot, 3 mini area of effect hitboxes, no fall-off damage, a high strafe speed, and high object damage. That is a stacked list of strengths. However, it also has some rather poor flaws. Its one-shot is the hardest one to hit in the entire game with those 3 bullets, making it very difficult and unreliable. And on top of that, it has some of the worst paint output in the game at a distance, which hurts it a lot as an anchor. While neither kit is amazing, one gives it the chance to succeed though, and that is the brand new collab Tri-Stringer. While the original kit has a sub to slow down enemies, and a special with solid combos that can help play off its damage, both parts are rather weak right now, reducing their impact. And neither of these can paint, which makes its main weakness even worse. While the new bow loses the global range special, Super Chump is more than a solid replacement. It puts down a crazy amount of paint, is a nice entry tool, and can be comboed off of better than the Whale, while still being a fast ink tank refill. This special's been really underestimated since its buffs, and now that the inside and outside hitboxes can combo with each other, it's much more important to shoot them down, wasting valuable time. Now, the sub it has of Sprinkler at least covers the paint weakness. While this isn't an amazing sub by any means and more on the lower half, it does help to cover for its main problem. And since its special is very important to it, getting more of it is something that's very important for the role it provides. Tri-Stringer is a weapon that over the past year has been shown to need specific comps around it in order to be worth using, and this kit is the one that allows it to be played with things like blasters and sloshers, as well as other weapons that could be good for area of effect comps like Splash. Being able to run things like these without having low paint output as an issue gives it an important edge and is going to allow players to run comps that the weapon really wants to be able to play around. Finally is the Splatanas, and if you were listening earlier in the video, you might already know that Wipers are in a bit of a worse spot. I've already mentioned that Hammer is a lot weaker right now, and Wiper as a whole is a lot less fast than the competition than it used to be. However, we do have the Splatana Wiper Deca with beacon missiles, which is the main missile niche right now, and beacon niche. That's pretty powerful and definitely gives it a bit more merit. However, Splatana Stamper recently got its Zipcaster buff. It now deals much better damage, as well as can zip a little bit closer, which is nice. This means you can use it for much more reliable combos, as well as even using it to go for solo kills at times. This is especially helpful given the Zipcaster arm is much cheaper than the main weapon. Stamper definitely still has some downtime problems, and it's still hard to use Zipcaster into cooler teams, but the main weapon can be ridiculous at times, especially paired with that burst bomb. And given that Wiper is struggling with its own fair share of problems and its own share of kits with their own fair weaknesses, I think Stamper has the edge right now as the best Splatana. Well, this ended up being a really long series. But I hope you enjoyed. There was a lot more to say with the best and worst weapons in every class this time than before, and I think that speaks to just how good the balance of the game is right now. So thank you guys so much for watching, and I hope you enjoyed.